Howdy, folks. Happy Thursday. And just on cue, Russ is getting a phone call. I got a phone call on my phone like literally 20 seconds ago, and it says scam likely. So
I know.
I have immediately, as soon as it rings, I just go right to decline and then delete it or block it.
Yeah.
You know, it's pointless because then they clone some other number and you can never stop it. But anyway,
we can.
We'll start with the pre-show. Go ahead, Russ.
So the other day, Washington Nationals had a Military Appreciation Day and had some Army parachuters parachute into the ballpark. The only problem is they didn't tell the Capitol Police. The Capitol Police then decided to say that this is a big problem, and they basically went to Congress and they had to empty out the building because it was a security risk.
Live, I'm watching one of the networks at 6:30, and their anchor, who was out in California, is getting on his earphone that everybody on Capitol Hill got a text message to basically scramble because we have a plane that's flying in the airspace. I mean, talk about the left hand not knowing what the right hand
is. It's unbelievable.
And it's like, okay, we're leaps and bounds better than we were when it was 9/11. But you just know how things were vulnerable then when they had to scramble two fighters from an airbase that was 300 miles away to go supersonic to get over Washington, D.C., to fly over the Capitol, and two fighters from some base, I think, in New York to fly over New York City. It just tells you, we may have come far, but we haven't come far enough.
No, I mean, but it's mostly the Nationals' fault. I blame the Nationals and their attitude.
Jesus. Yeah, it's great. It's Juan Soto's fault.
Yep, I'm going with that.
Okay, something has to be done with the hunger of patrons on airplanes, because Mike Tyson apparently was ready to bite somebody's ear off. He got annoyed on a plane. He didn't do it in Evander Holyfield, but he did try to punch somebody. Apparently,
no, he did punch somebody.
He did punch somebody. Oh, great! Wonderful.
There's pictures.
Oh, geez.
So listen, without getting into too much detail, I've met the man. He lived in my hotel for over a month. He is a bad person, a bad human being. That's what I'll say.
Yeah, and since I know I'll never meet him, he's a punk. He's an ex-con. I don't care what.
But repeatedly punches man in the face.
I don't care.
Bloody's passenger.
Great. I don't care if he's done an off-Broadway play and whatever. And there's, he's in movies. He's to me, he's always been sort of a reprehensible human being. So we'll just leave it at that. Okay.
Yep.
Hello, Hockey World. Today is Thursday, April 21st, 2022.
I'm Russ Cohen from Sportsology.
And I'm Michael Agello, and this is the HockeyBuzzcast here on HockeyBuzz.com. All right, we'll start with the races the race in the West, because there's.
Oh, I thought we were talking about boat races. All right.
No. Now,
well, this is Philly. They have the skull races. The skull.
Oh, wonderful.
Wow. I mean, that's a pretty big deal. It gets a lot of attention here.
Okay. Well, great. I don't know a damn thing about it, so I'm going to talk about the hockey races.
You're not an Ivy League. Anyhow.
No, I'm not, and I'm not. But I'm still brilliant. Okay,
with your SUNY education.
Yes, SUNY colleges. I paid it all myself. No help from anybody. Okay, so in the West, we still have the second wild card, and maybe third place in the Pacific still up for grabs. And last night, just going through the games quickly, the Oilers beat Dallas 5-2, solidifying their hold on second place in the Pacific.
So you're saying the Oilers are safe, Mike?
Well, unfortunately, yes. I mean, the stretch of the last week and a half where all of a sudden they've learned how to play defense. I'm still convinced that they're not going to be able to in the playoffs, but we'll see. Okay. But the game that was, I think, central to to continuation of the race in the West was Vegas coming back against the Capitals, winning 4-3 in overtime. When I was watching this game, the Caps were up 2-1 in the second period. Ovechkin ended up scoring 2 goals and ended up with his 50th, which, we can talk about how fantastic Ovechkin is, but I think we've beaten that horse to death.
Yep.
But in overtime, Shea Theodore scores his 14th of the year, and now Vegas. I mean, they still have a long way to go, Russ. But I mean, right now, you look at the standings, and LA has got 92 with 78 games. Nashville, I think, is in the best position to solidify a playoff spot. They have a game in hand on Vegas, and they have 93, so they're ahead of LA. Dallas loses yesterday. They have a game in hand on Vegas, but they only have 91. So Vegas is 2 points behind Dallas, 3 points behind LA. They have the same amount of games played against as LA does. Dallas has a game in hand. So right now it's still up in the air.
Yeah, the 3-point game is really what could be the death of the Vegas Golden Knights at this point. But right now they're in it based on their personnel. It's not impossible, regardless of the schedule, that they could win these games. We'll see. We'll see how motivated they are. We'll see how the other teams do. We'll see if Jonathan Quick holds up. There's a lot of storylines here, and so we knew this race would go down to the wire. My initial thought was Dallas is out. Then my initial thought was it kind of looks like they're safe. Now I'm not sure about Dallas. I'm still sticking with Vegas because I still believe they have the personnel, but it's hard. This is not like they're going to have to get some luck too.
Well, the big game here is next Tuesday because it's a head-to-head match between Vegas and Dallas in Dallas. Dallas plays Calgary tonight. That's going to be tough, even though Calgary really doesn't have a lot to play for because they're pretty much locked into first place. And then the rest of their schedule is easy, but you can't say, these teams are still playing. They're playing for jobs.
Yeah.
They play.
Now, is ESPN going to do like an opening with like the OK Corral for that game because it's in Dallas and they're going to do the whistling, the guns, not the what was the TV show that had
Gunsmoke?
the whistle? It wasn't Gunsmoke. It was the other one.
Bonanza?
Nah, but Bonanza music would be fine. That's actually good.
The Rifleman with Chuck Connors?
Yeah. No, there was one that has the whistle. It's a famous whistle, but it's fine. I wonder if they'll do that. We'll see.
But yeah, Dallas would seem to have an advantage here because they have 4 of their last 5 games at home. So, and like I said, they play Seattle, Arizona, and Anaheim, 3 teams that are, dramatically non-playoff teams. Whereas Vegas and
Arizona's been playing some tough games though. Like the Blackhawks just barely beat them.
Now, okay, here's a quirk in the schedule.
Yes. Last night, Arizona hung with the Blackhawks until the Blackhawks beat them.
Right. But both teams are
challenged. The Blackhawks are better than Arizona.
But here's an oddity for the schedule here. Vegas has 3 full days off. And their next game is on Sunday against San Jose. They play 4 games in the last 6 days. So they have a break, and then it's at home, their final home game against San Jose. Then they're on the road at Dallas, at Chicago, at St. Louis. So it does look like Vegas has the tougher road to hoe.
Yeah, those days off could be a really good thing too. So
yes.
It's all unpredictable, man.
And as we said yesterday, LA's schedule is relatively easy, although.
But what if Quick starts, going on the other side of being good again?
He apparently played fantastic in the game against Anaheim.
He did. Apparently, a lot of people wrote about Barry Melrose trumpeting Jonathan Quick, and people just, I guess, got annoyed with Barry Melrose.
Trumpeting him for what? The Vezina?
No, just in general. Apparently, again, they're sort of ripping Melrose for not knowing too much about today's game. Forgetting about the college ranks, even.
Yeah, I was going to say he doesn't know anything about college. That doesn't stop ESPN from putting him on the Frozen 4 broadcast.
No, it doesn't.
As for LA, the final 4 games, 2 at home at Chicago tonight, at home against Chicago tonight, at home against Anaheim on Saturday, then 3 days off, and then consecutive road games to finish out at Seattle, at Vancouver. I know Randy in the chat said, "Don't forget about the Canucks."
I'm still not holding out hope for them. I'm really not.
They're 5 points behind LA, and they're 4 points behind Dallas.
Randy wants the Canucks in because he's looking for a patsy to line up against the Flames.
I was going to say he wants.
That's what he's looking for,
right? What would give Flames fans more pleasure, eliminating the Canucks or having the Canucks in the first round as a patsy?
Right.
I don't know, but we'll follow those races. But okay, well, we're going to talk about this because I figured we would do sort of a look back on some of the teams that have been eliminated, just going through what the reasons.
You mean like over the years? Are we going to talk about last year's Leafs? Is that what you're getting?
No. Thank you, Russ. No.
Oh, okay.
We're not going that far back. We're not.
Okay.
But no. So what we're going to do is look at some of the teams that have been eliminated and see where things went wrong and what will be done and what can be done. And we'll start with your favorite team and ex-favorite team, the Arizona Coyotes, the gift that keeps on giving. Right now they have the worst record in the league.
The best chance at the number one pick.
So I think it's an 18.5% chance at Shane Wright. Mm-hmm. It drops off, I think, to 13.5 with the second pick, and Montreal is only a point behind them or a point ahead of them in the standings. Depending on the way you look at it. But okay, here's my viewpoint on Arizona. This season for them was a success because clearly the way they put this team together, they were put together for one simple reason, and that was to lose. This was a tank year. It was a tank year of epic proportions. They got rid of long-term salary with Ekman Larson and traded Connor Garland and added 3 dead money contracts in Roussel and Jay Beagle and Louis Eriksson, which will all be off the books this year. I think the only failure for them is they didn't end up trading Phil Kessel at the deadline because they had
want some.
Well, I think somebody would have wanted him at 50% of his salary, but they had already used the retention on other players. So they didn't have the ability to, nobody was going to take Kessel at 6.8. But you look at this team, they scrambled to get a goaltender. They found one who was at least NHL caliber, I guess, in Valmelka. He played pretty well this year after coming out of the Slovakian Super League or wherever the heck it was. They have a good young defenseman in Jacob Chikrin, but all we talked about for half the year, Russ, was them trading him. And
which they still might at the draft.
Which they probably will in the offseason, but we'll talk about that in a minute. But, you look at the way this team, it was either has-beens or guys we don't know what they are, like Barrett Hayton, or a few good players like Schmaltz and Keller and Lawson Krause. But the question, Keller's coming off a serious leg injury. I was told by an Arizona reporter they're not trading Lawson Krause. I'll believe it when I see it. Really, where is this organization?
I can see them not trading Lawson Krause.
But where is this organization?
You look at them like their bottom pair, their bottom lines, the bottom 6 make more money than the top 6 by a lot because they have guys like Kessel and guys that are past it. Look, I like the signing of Jack McBain. He could be a potential 3rd or 4th line center for them. They have all these draft picks. They still don't have a great feeder system. For all the draft picks, shouldn't their team be better now just for the draft picks that they have funneled through? But they're not. It's a complete mess. If they get Shane Wright, fine, then he'll be in the lineup. There's such a gully for this team to be able to, between playoff teams and this team. This team is still, by far the worst. and even how they do in the draft won't change that. So,
well, okay. All I can say is you expect more of the same next year because at the deadline they traded for the LTIR contract of Brian Little,
yeah.
which means they're going to put the last 2 years of that contract towards the cap floor, towards making it to the cap floor. They had to sign some players to extensions simply, I think, to make the cap floor. Players like Liam O'Brien or Bamelka or Dyson Mayo, who they signed for 3 years at under $1 million.
I mean, their top set, scorers, Keller, who's out now with 63 points. He was close to a point a game. Schmaltz is 54 and 58. Kessel with only 7 goals is 48 and 77. Gostisbehere 44 and 77 is good for him, but he's also a minus 26. Everybody who's pining away for Shane Gostisbehere, he's a minus 26 for those 44 points.
They have $34 million in cap space.
Yeah. Now Krause's 20 goals is significant because that's a reason they shouldn't trade him for the reasons you and I have said that we like him. He can score some goals.
Well, okay, and here's the thing. He's a restricted free agent with arbitration rights, and going into arbitration with a 20-goal year and the amount of ice time that he's played this year and top 6 minutes, he's probably going to end up getting $4.5 million on a arbitration award or on a settlement. If it would be smart for them at 24 years old to sign him to a long-term deal. But this organization doesn't do anything smart or very little things smart. The one thing that they have done is, you're going to have a bunch of expiring contracts and you're going to have a lot of cap space. So they could be a team that could be a dumping ground for, say, for example, a James Van Riemsdyk from Philadelphia.
Yeah, just to give you an example, how things have sort of tailed off from them for the most part in drafts. So in 2017, Mackenzie Entwistle has played 60 games, and POJ has played 20, not for them. And those are the only guys that have played out of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 picks that year. 9 picks, 80 games so far in the pros, 5 years later. That ain't good.
No, and I don't know where, to your point about lack of development. I haven't seen a lot of Soderstrom this year.
I've seen Soderstrom. I think he's doing okay, but I also think he's not a guy that needs a ton of development. But if we go to the 2018 draft, Barrett Hayton's got 9 goals this year. He's got 12 in his career. 89 games, 26 points. He was rushed. Kevin Ball's not even there anymore, right? Jan Jenik, who I liked, 12 games, 4 goals, no other points. And then Ivan Prostatov, the goalie, 6 games. That's it. So again, you're talking about a little over 100 games for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 picks.
Well, okay, so
Kirk could still play. Like, this is 2018. We'll give him a little leeway, but this is bad, Mike. This is This is when you're a bottom feeder like this, right? And you get all these draft picks, you have to hit on these draft picks. This is why Ottawa's better than they are, because Ottawa hits on their draft picks at least.
But Hayton is sort of following in the footsteps of Dylan Strome, that he was promoted too early and really has struggled. The one they haven't done that with Soderstrom, because Soderstrom played 13 games this year, had no points, and they ended up sending him back to Tucson. He spent most of the year with the Roadrunners. So at least they're not exposing him. But, more than likely you're going to see, are we going to see Dylan Guenther in the NHL next year?
They're going to probably try.
Yeah, I think that would be dumb. He's had a fantastic year with Edmonton in the WHL. He's 19 right now. He's an April birthday, so he just turned 19.
Yeah.
Why don't
either NHL or bust, right? So that's
right. It's either NHL or going back to the WHL. And I think it probably would be more beneficial for him to go back to the Western Hockey League. He could play in the World Juniors as a 19-year-old. He probably will play in the World Juniors this year in July or August, whenever it's going to be.
They drafted an overager defenseman, J.J. Moser. He's played 38 games with them, 18 with Tucson. Okay, he's an older Swiss player, but what is that going to get you long term?
Well,
they constantly rush guys into the league. I just don't understand it.
When Randy's right. He's Gunther's a great prospect, but he's not AHL eligible. So yeah, I mean, unless the AHL changed their rules and they allow.
We know that. That's what we were saying. Yeah.
Right. So
that's why I said it's NHL or bust.
Yeah. So I mean, now the one thing Bill Armstrong has done is, remember, they were penalized draft picks and lost a lot of draft capital after trading for Taylor Hall and after the Chaika penalty for the scouting, going around and doing a scouting situation that was illegal. They've made a bunch of trades, and now, Russ, when we're at the draft in Montreal in July, we're gonna be sick of hearing Arizona because they have 3 firsts and 4 seconds. So yeah. Now
look, I'll be honest. A lot of times when I'm interviewing or taking pictures of draft picks, unless I really think highly of them, I ignore some of the Arizona draft picks because I know where they're headed, and they're not proving me wrong. So this is where they have to improve as an organization. They really do.
Well, let's just say this. If they don't improve as an organization in terms of development, then what the hell is the point of acquiring all the draft picks?
I know.
So, you could say, okay, well, they could trade away draft picks to get players. I personally think they're going to, two players who I've like one I just said, Van Riemsdyk. He's got a year left at $7 million. And we know Philadelphia, and we'll talk about Philly on another show. We know Philadelphia is going to want to make moves because stupidly they're not going to rebuild; they're going to reset, and they want the cap space to go out and sign somebody. The other player that you might see is Max Pacioretty. He's got a year left at $7 million, and we know that Vegas, if they fall short, are probably going to want to do something very proactive and probably dumb. But that's really the.
They have to stop doing this because
I know, but they're not going
to benefit them because you didn't get any other extra draft picks. It's not like you can look at the everyday lineup and say, "See, we are benefiting from this. We're we're getting these picks. We're turning them into something." And we're exposing these other teams for being bad at the cap. They're not. They're just proving that they're a good dumping ground. That's all they're proving.
Yeah, and Max Pacioretty has got a year left at $7 million. He only has a modified no trade. So you wanted to know how they would re-sign Riley Smith. It might be at the cost of trading Pacioretty, or if I just saw something here about what was going on with Robin Leonard last night, and Jesse Granger, who covers the Golden Knights, said DeBoer watched Robin Leonard give up 2 goals in the third period against New Jersey, laid the blame at Leonard's feet after the game, and said that Logan Thompson was his only consistent goaltender. Then he started Leonard against Washington and then pulled Leonard for Thompson when the score was tied 1-1. So let's just say this. I'd be surprised if Robin Leonard is back in Vegas.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
So, okay, we're asking some questions for people in the chat to ask questions before we're going to end the show a little early today. Just to go over quickly the schedule for tonight, some interesting games. Flyers Canadians is not one of them. Neither is Red Wings Panthers or Sabres Devils. The Bruins at Pittsburgh. The Bruins are 1 point behind Tampa Bay for third place in the Atlantic. Pittsburgh is still fighting for position.
Mike's rooting for the Bruins. We know that.
Yes. Right now, Pittsburgh, they're locked in the third place. They're in third place with 97 points. They're tied with Washington. So they're battling to be either third and play whoever loses between Carolina and the Rangers, or finishing in the second wild card or first wild card and playing either Florida or Carolina. So right now, that's an important game for both teams. Boston is still without Pasternak. It's still without Hampus Lindholm. So that's, they're playing shorthanded, but they did beat St. Louis in overtime a couple days.
Pittsburgh.
Sorry, advantage
Pittsburgh.
Yeah, but Pittsburgh doesn't Pittsburgh starting Casey DeSmith unless Jari is back, and it doesn't sound like that. So that might be the great equalizer there.
Okay, yeah.
Hurricanes play the Jets. The Jets are essentially out of it, not mathematically, but I think out of it. And the Hurricanes are battling the Rangers for first place. The Rangers are playing the Islanders, and we always know, Russ.
No matter what the record is, it's going to be a tough game.
Yes. The battle for second place in the Atlantic, Leafs visiting Tampa Bay, first game of a 3-game road trip. Sheldon Keefe just let the media know that Matthews and Muzzin are close, but they're not playing against Tampa Bay. Now, that's a benefit of the fact that the Leafs are 8 points ahead of Tampa. They're playing with house money.
Right.
There might be minor injuries. It might be load management, but right now they're like, okay.
There's no point.
There's no point. If there's like an ankle sprain or something like that. I saw Matthews skating. I saw Muzzin skating on Tuesday before the morning skate. They looked fine. They did practice or take the optional. They're just like, there's no point if they're a little dinged up to risk them getting hurt more severely with 3 or 4 games left. So that's smart. I think Matthews is going to play. Matthews will play before the end of the regular season because I think they want him to get 60 goals. And I think if he gets 60 goals, I think he's pretty much a shoo-in for the Hart.
I don't know if he's a shoo-in, but we'll see.
Well, I think he's the favorite, Russ.
Well, he's the favorite because of all the Toronto voters, but I don't know.
No, in fact,
you think they're going to vote against him?
No, but I'm talking about the rest of the league.
No, I get it, but he's going to get a shit ton of votes out of the Toronto area.
But okay,
which is disproportionate, for voters in the Professional Hockey Writers Association. It's disproportionate to other places.
They limit the amount of Toronto They limit the amount of Toronto writers. So
we'll see how much they limit them.
I think he'll get a lot of votes from American writers too, because he's a U.S.
I'm an American writer. I'm up in the air.
Well, we'll have Austin call you, and he can lobby for himself. Stars play the Flames again. Dallas needs to win that game to maintain their position in the wild card race. The Kings play the Blackhawks, and the Blues play the Sharks. Okay, some questions here. Let's go back here. Here we go. Randy is asking, what do you think of Savoy and Cooley? This is draft questions here.
Yeah, I mean, Matt Savoy I spoke to recently. I'm working on an article now. I think he's a great kid. I have him ranked 3rd. I have Cooley 2nd. We'll see if that stays. It probably will. And I think the world of both of them. They're completely different players. I mean, Cooley is a natural center. Savoy is a center who's now going to be playing some wing in the playoffs. So you kind of wonder, will that hold through? But Savoy there's not many guys like him in the draft. I mean, he really is a wizard out there with the puck, and he can do a lot of different things. He may not be the biggest guy, but I sure take him on my team, where Cooley has a really great speed burst. He's excellent on faceoffs. He really knows the center position well. He's got a great mental makeup, great shot. There's a lot to like about Cooley, too. I think he can play center at the NHL, and that's probably where I give him a little edge over Savoy, but, it's just a slight edge. But Wright's better than both of them. So there's no contest there for me.
Yeah, I mean, everything I've heard, Wright is – I think there's no doubt he's going to end up being the number 1 pick. It doesn't sound like there's any kind of challenge to that.
I don't think so.
And he's had a good year in the OHL. So I saw a question here about Brendan Gallagher. Let's see, here we go. Oh, here it is. Okay. El Guapo asks, do you think Montreal can trade Brendan Gallagher this offseason?
Yeah, I do. Somebody will take Gallagher. They'll have to eat 50%, but somebody will take him.
It's 5 more years.
I know.
I mean, okay, he's making 6.5. He's got a limited no trade and a no move. But knowing where Montreal is in terms of they're going to rebuild,
Arizona will take him to protect Phil Kessel.
Well, Phil Kessel's the UFA. No, I mean, I honestly, I don't know.
You say that, but they might re-sign him.
Oh, they could, because I'm sure he likes the hot dogs and the golf in Scottsdale. But I don't know. Let's just say this: Montreal's got a bunch of draft picks.
They'll have to entice somebody.
They might have to include now.
But I do think it's possible. Gordon's done it before.
Okay, if you say, and I don't think it'll be half, but say you shave. He's 29 years old. He's only got 19 points this year. Now, is that a product of the fact that
you got to watch this whole season?
Right. I'm going to say, is that a product of Montreal sucking, or is that a product of him, because he's been a player that's taken a lot of wear and tear.
A little bit of both, but he can still get points in this league.
Right. I mean, he had 14 goals in 35 games last year and only had 2 goals in their run in the playoffs. So he's clearly not the player he was a few years ago. But could he be somebody that, if you're paying him $4 million instead of $6.5 million, that a team that is a contender or one that wants to be a contender would take on? I think they'd have to give up a draft pick, and I think they'd have to shave probably a third of the salary off the books for them to get him. But it's
possible. I think they'll do it.
Anything is possible in this league. Let's see here. Will Monahan be bought out after the season? Well, no, he can't, because he just had off-season surgery.
He's not going to be bought out anyhow. I mean, without Gaudreau there, if all of a sudden you bought out Monahan, he went somewhere else and did well, that would kill the Calgary fan base. It would hurt the organization.
Boy, I'll tell you, it's great right now because the way Calgary are playing, but I would hate to be Brad Treliving and at the beginning of July.
He's going to get destroyed.
Yeah. So Gaudreau has over 100 points. If he stays, he's probably going to want $9.5 million or $10 million. So more than likely, I don't know if they can get that done with their cap situation. Matthew Tkachuk is a restricted free agent with arb rights and is 1 year away from unrestricted free agency. So if you let Gaudreau walk, you have to sign Tkachuk. And who knows if Tkachuk wants to stay in Calgary. And then you have an injured Sean Monahan, who was so injured that he had to play fourth line center.
Listen, if Tkachuk doesn't want to stay there, which he might not want to, and Gaudreau is gone with getting maybe a draft pick for him, and Monahan, Calgary is going to have to rebuild whether they want to or not. They will not have enough to sustain, and that's the whole thing. The Sutter Empire here could crumble very quickly.
Yeah, unless Eck is right and Andrew Mangiapane turns into Austin.
Well, he didn't fulfill Eck's promise this year.
Yeah, I'm waiting for the payoff. All I can say
is we're not getting anything.
Yeah,
he was very good. No slight to him, but I'm just saying, based on who they have in their system and losing these guys, if they were to lose 2 out of those 3, it really hurts, man. To the point where I don't know what they would do.
Yeah. Alexander asked, do you think the NHL will keep expanding or stop at 32? I think they're going to stop for a while. I think they have.
We'll stop for a while.
Yeah, I think they have situations in this league that they have to address. That now, okay, they will rephrase the franchise fee as a transfer fee. When Arizona moves to Houston or moves to Quebec,
cashing in on that.
Yeah, they will say, okay, because they want to keep the value of their franchises up, and they don't want to have the perception of giving away the franchise just to somebody. I mean, that's why I can't see the current ownership in Arizona with a 5,500 seat arena with that franchise being a joke in terms of the way it's being run. I can't see them just allowing that team to skulk away at night and go someplace for nothing. They're going to have to sell that team, and that owner is going to have to pay some sort of fee to acquire the franchise. Otherwise, I don't think the NHL will approve it.
Just to go back to answer Randy, he said, Tkachuk has to be qualified at 9.9 if they don't trade him before that.
Right.
Because they probably don't want to qualify him at 9.9.
Right. Vespis asking the question, that I've been answering and will continue to answer in the correct way because I'm always correct. Which team is a better matchup for the Leafs, Lightning or Bruins? I mean,
Tampa Bay Lightning.
No, the Bruins. It's okay. This is the thing. If you believe that Tampa Bay is worn out after 2 long runs towards winning Stanley Cups, and that you can beat the best goaltender in the world in Vasilevsky, then then Russ is right. It's the Lightning. I don't think are they as good as they were last year? No. Are they still great? Yes. So the Bruins, on the other hand, okay, they don't have Krejci. Eric Hall is their number 2 center. They don't have Chara any longer. They don't have Tuukka Rask in goal. They have a rookie in Jeremy Swayman. Now, can Jeremy Swayman beat the Leafs? Sure. I don't think that the Bruins are as strong. And, Pasternak is hurt, so he'll be less than 100%. Hampus Lindholm, who they got at the deadline, is hurt. So he might be less than 100%. So you've got all those things with the Bruins. Could they still beat Toronto? Sure, but I would rather face the Bruins than face Tampa Bay.
Okay.
Tom says, I have a question about free agency. Are teams going to be paying for veterans for their 4th line this year, or will they be looking for younger depth? If they're paying for veterans on the 4th line, they're going to be paying them a veteran minimum.
Right.
I mean, that's the thing. The class system in the NHL, Russ, is the fact that, you're going to pay your big players, and then the middle class are going to be gone, and then the rest of the players are going to be $2 million or less.
For me to answer the question, it's going to be a mix.
Right. I mean, I'll use Toronto as an example. They signed Kyle Clifford for less than $800,000. They signed Wayne Simmons. He's got another year at, I think, $850,000. They signed Michael Bunting at $900,000 on a 2-year deal, and that looks like a complete and utter steal. Guys like Kasha and Kampf, they signed for less than $2 million. Now, Kasha had concussion issues again. I don't know whether they'll bring him back because I don't know how.
I don't think he's coming back.
Yeah, I mean, if I were him, I'd think about retirement because it's just over and over. He's a good player, but he just can't simply stay healthy. And the Leafs are going to have to sign other players, and they probably will use that money towards signing some of the players I mentioned who are either restricted or unrestricted free agents. Let's see here.
Oh, one more question.
One more? Well, we got, two.
If you got 2 more, I'll answer them quick. And that's it.
Esmir, I think that's wrong.
No, they're not going to do that.
Okay. Here you go. Brendan, will Ryan Ellis be a Flyer next season?
I mean, he'll be a Flyer. Will he be an injured Flyer? He might be.
Yes. Agreed. Quick one, and then we'll end the show. I do not have the draft lottery simulator, so
sorry guys,
we'll hold out on that until tomorrow. Okay, we'll end the show here because Russ and I both have things we have to get done today.
We're busy, man.
We'll be back tomorrow with another edition of the Hockey Buzzcast. For Russ Cohen, I'm Michael Agello. Thank you for watching, and remember, without the buzz, it's just